Oh, I thought it was as good as it can be. We got 3 practices and let them off a couple days, and we got to go on the road recruiting. So if you have to have an open week, that's the way you want to spend the time.
Mike, you and Texas kind of started the season off in a pretty similar situation. Why have they flourished so much? Well, what do you think's made them improve so much? Offensively, why are they so much better now, you think?
Well, just from an outsider looking in, their quarterback has gained some experience. They have good players. They're still big, strong, and fast and can run and make plays. They look very similar to what they have been over the past few years. I think that they're playing hard on defense and running to the ball. And I think they have good players.
In terms of straight-ahead physicality, is Texas the most physical straight-ahead team that you faced at this point?
I think so.
Have they evolved into that as the season has worn along, or?
I think they're improved from where they were in the third, fourth, fifth week of the season compared to where they are now. You'd have to ask them that. I think they'll be the most physical team that we faced up front from size and strength and what it looks like they're trying to accomplish on offense.
Is that the biggest reason why you think they've improved, is that they had big, strong, physical players? It just took some time for them to evolve into what they've become now?
Again, it's hard for me to really say why they've improved because I don't really know what's going on in their camp. I just know that when I watch them now compared to watching them 4 or 5 weeks ago, in my opinion, they're better. They still have good players and guys that are meet the size and the quota and the standards for what you look for in college football players.
Building a program here, and you had to take certain steps when you won in Austin for the first time, and then you beat them again a couple times. How big a step was that in what you built?
Well, I think those were big steps for our program. I don't. It's been a long time since we had won or beaten Texas here nor there. I can't remember what the long time. So those are all steps that were important in kind of getting to where we wanted to be as a football program.
World War II since you won in Austin, but yeah, it was a one-sided series until recently.
Mike, there have been some obvious challenges, I think, for the offense with injuries and that sort of thing. But what do you when you think about the challenges for Mike and coordinating the offense, what do you maybe there's stuff that we aren't as aware of that have been challenges along the way for him and the guys in the offensive room?
Other than the obvious, nothing. It hadn't really been anything. We're working through a new quarterback and a young offensive line and a little bit of experience, and it just takes a little bit longer than what most people would want. They're improving. They're getting a little better, but it just takes some time.
Have you reached a point where nothing in the conference surprises you anymore?
There's not really much in college football that surprises me. I've been saying that for 5 years, and nobody's believed me, and I think now everybody's buying into it. It's that way from here on out. It'll be that way from here on out. And this league, it will slowly but surely over the next few years develop like what people have thought about the SEC West, because of the way it's fallen with the playoff system, with the geographical locations, with the conference, with playing everybody 9 games, and it's what it's going to be in the future here in this league.
You recruited really well. Let's say against A&M. When they were in the conference. In fact, you probably surpassed A&M if you combine recruiting plus the results on the field. But are TCU and Baylor kind of new wild cards now?
Sure.
That you have to contend with what they've done with facilities, and et cetera?
Baylor has new facilities. TCU has new facilities. Their universities are located in a state that has approximately 350 Division I prospects a year. So as we move forward, the schools that have joined this league or have been in this league that have upgraded facilities will continue to do well and will be challenges for all of us. And so as we move forward, we have to really be smart in everything we do, make really good decisions in recruiting and so on and so forth. But this league, the way that it's panning out over the next few years is going to be really, really strong.
When you've had a guy become draft eligible, and he really had a legitimate decision to make, would you go, and I'm referring to Tyreek, would you go to him and talk to him proactively, or would you just wait for him to come to you at some point? What's the process typically been with guys like Okong and Dez and those guys?
In history for us, once the season's over, those guys will sit down, they get a draft analysis, and they'll meet with the coaches, strength coaches, and kind of find out where they are, where we think they are, and what their future is. And surprisingly, each one of them have kind of a different goal, and then we give advice, but ultimately it'll be their decision. They're just like having a son at home that's a college kid or a high school kid. They're going to do what they want to do based on the information they can gather.
But I mean, with Tyreek, you've known since you first laid eyes on it that he was an exceptional athlete. But how much better a football player is he today versus just like when you went to Arlington to play Florida State? How much has he grown?
Well, I think he's better. I think he's got a ways to go if you're talking about competing at that level. They're the best of the best. And I think that he eventually could make that, but he needs some time and some development in several areas. And at some point, he or somebody who's given him information will have to make a decision on his future. But in my opinion, he needs some fine-tuning in certain areas, and we're trying to work with him this week to get him ready to play Texas.
So your advice, or if it was solicited to Blackman, let's say, at his decision time, now, he decided to stay another year, and then he left as a junior. But you agreed with the decision at the time when he decided to go?
I'm not sure that there's many of them that are ready to come out early. That game is considerably different than this game. And, if you just look at all the different players that have come out, I think one of the best examples is the quarterback for the Colts. And he was certainly ready to come out after his junior year. I think he stayed his junior year. Is that not right? And he'd come back for his senior year. And from then until he came out, in my opinion, he was a much different football player because he's a year older and more NFL ready, in my opinion. I've never coached in the NFL, so I don't have a clue what they look for or what their opinion is. But he was just more ready, and I think that he's having success in the NFL earlier than other guys because he stayed another year.
All of your guys who did leave, when they could have come back another year, you thought they all could have benefited from one more year at this level?
I think so.
Even Dez?
I think so. I think that it's just a different game, and there's so many other variables involved when you get to that level with the way they handle themselves, money, media, outside interest. We have a pretty good hold on grasp on our players because they're in class, study halls. We know where they're at all the time. I'm guessing in the NFL they have more freedom. I just think sometimes young people aren't ready for what's there. And one more year of age development, maturity, physical development couldn't hurt them, in my opinion.
Mike, is there anything you can do offensively to change what's been happening the last month? I mean, is there anything other than just try to make incremental little steps here and there, or is it just pretty much it?
Just keep moving forward.
Mike, tomorrow's Veterans Day. You've got an ex-Marine on your staff, guy who played here. Give us a little insight into who Nathan Peterson's become.
Well, he's a special person. He played and had more success than he should have at this level based on his height and weight. He's not your typical prototype defensive lineman, but he had a great heart and was a team player, determination, tough, all those things, which actually worked out good for him in the military. And came back and wanted to be a coach, and his work ethic and the habits and his everyday lifestyle is a lot different than other coaches. There's a demand, a physical and mental demand on coaching at this level, and it doesn't really faze him much.
He came back from a bad injury, too.
Yes. Yeah, some guys are tougher than others. Guys get injured and can be out 2 weeks. The same guy can get injured and be out 5 weeks. Just depends on pain tolerance. Everybody's different, and just depends on their mental makeup, and he's kind of a tough guy.
Mike, has there been much emphasis at all put on the fact that you get one more win, you're bowl eligible, in terms of talking about that with your players, or do you make that one thing bowl eligibility. Do you make that a big deal with them when you talk to them?
Haven't really talked about it. It hadn't been brought up. I think they just don't understand the importance of preparation. I can't imagine with the world we live in today that they're not aware of it. But we just talk about the next practice and trying to get better and work forward and prepare and then go play hard on Saturday.
Mike, one of the cornerstones of your program has been, in fact, I can almost hear you saying it all the time, even during games, attitude, body language. How do you feel? This team's going through some things that your teams haven't in a while. How do you stack up the attitude and their body language in practice?
I've been good. If you watch our games and go back and look for things in those areas, you won't see any players that have a bad attitude, and there's no confrontation between themselves. There's no confrontation between the players and coaches. They continue to allow themselves to be coached, and I think that relationship's is gone very well. And I haven't seen anything that would concern me. They understand the importance of controlling their attitude and their body language because the talent level is a non-factor in those situations. Everybody has a chance and a choice when they control their attitude and body language. And I think our players have done good up to this point.
Coach Gundy, Saturday night, senior night, I think I counted 18 seniors. Everybody's made contributions. Some of the guys have made really significant contributions to the program.
Well, it's like always. It's hard to see the guys go. And some of them have a chance to move on and play football. Most of them get a job and go out there in the real world. But hopefully the time they've spent here with us has prepared them to go out there and contribute to society and do things that makes them happy and then come back on homecoming and be glad they came to Oklahoma State.
What's that like for you on that night when you're standing by the tunnel and you got the ball and they come out and take the picture and you give them a hug and say something to
Yeah,
them?
it's one of the few times or days or moments during the year that actually affects me emotionally. Most of everything else that we do or I do is pretty much routine in doing this for 25 years. But to have players that have committed themselves and paid the price and gone through everything it takes to be a college football player, to see those guys leave is hard at times. And it's one of the few days it's actually emotional for me.
What was it like for your senior day? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't know. It's been so long ago. It's almost, I don't even know how long ago that's been. I don't really remember. I just know that we were on probation then, and so we didn't have an opportunity to go to a bowl. I remember that part of it.
Speaking of the bowl eligibility, what would the impact be if you don't get the eligibility? How does that affect you in terms of, does it affect recruiting at all, or how do you look at that?
Affect me or recruiting?
The program.
Oh, I think you lose practices, but other than that, everybody wants to go to a bowl, but you can't allow it to affect you because you don't have a choice.
In the last month or so of the 09 season, you had a hard time scoring, and Zach got dinged up. He had everything, shoulder, ankle, some of this. Anyway, but after the season, or maybe even during the season, you evaluated and then you kind of went a radically different direction when you hired Dana. I was just curious, did that process kind of start maybe in November, October even, or was it all a postseason and evaluation by Mike Gundy and then you went a different direction?
The latter was postseason, and felt like that Brandon Whedon was our best quarterback, and Dana was the best guy for that style of play because I didn't have a history in that style of offense. I mean, I can see it and learn it and look at it, but I don't know the ins and outs of it.
So you score all these touchdowns, 300 of them over 4 years after you hired Dana, and now you're having a hard time scoring touchdowns again. So is it strictly circumstantial, injuries, youth, Dax being inexperienced, all of that, or do you think maybe you might be due for another philosophical adjustment?
Well, I think we scored a lot. If you look back during those years, we had key positions of guys that are NFL players. It starts with the quarterback. We had an NFL quarterback. We had multiple NFL running backs, multiple NFL receivers, and NFL offensive linemen. That helps a lot.
So so the system ain't broke. It's just you just got to plug more NFL guys back in those.
Well, we're just young in certain areas, and Dax is coming along. Dax is still was our backup quarterback. We brought him in the middle of the fold, and we're trying to make some adjustments.
Mike, one of your seniors being Desmond Rowland this week, everything he's been through this year, battling through injuries, losing his mom, how has he kept a level head through it all, and how has he been a leader for you still?
I think he's done fine. He's, he's not really been injured as much as what he has been in the past. He's been fairly healthy. Losing his mother, I can only imagine what he's going through. And so he's back and with the team, which I think is the best thing for him. In my opinion, when you have a situation like that, the sooner you can get back into an everyday lifestyle is beneficial, and our team's embraced him, and he seems to be doing very well at this time.